Chris Carlin on 98.7 ESPN.
It's going to be an either-or situation with Francisco Lindor and DJ LeMahieu. Not both, folks. It's Carlin on 98.7 ESPN with you all evening long. You can listen to pretty much anywhere you want, on the radio, on your smart speakers, at Play 98.7 ESPN, on ESPNNewYork.com, and, of course, the ESPN app, and the video live stream as well at Facebook.com/ESPN New York and on Twitter at ESPNNY987. It's everywhere. It's Carlin. Excited to be with you for the next few hours, and we've got a lot to discuss still ahead on the show. Not even still ahead, very much ahead on the show. A mystery with the New York Jets that absolutely has to be solved in very short order. And it is Thursday, which means that tonight, the Carlin Chronicles returns. Tonight's episode, the Chicken Parm Hero. We'll get to it all at 800-919-3776, of course, on Twitter, at Chris Carlin. Can we get this straight right now? If you watch all of what's being said by the New York Yankees this offseason, by Hal Steinbrenner, what's been talked about a little bit with Brian Cashman, the ability to add is not going to be surpassing the luxury tax threshold for the coming year. The Yankees, according to the Yankees, lost more money than anybody else in all of baseball. They have already exercised the option for next year in bringing back Zach Britton. They did not want to risk losing him, and that was absolutely the right move. So, all of a sudden, there's a lot of talk about Francisco Lindor, who's projected to make roughly $21 million this upcoming year. If you're going to bring in Francisco Lindor, you are not going to be bringing back DJ LeMahieu, and that is absolute trash. Listen, I get it. Francisco Lindor is a younger player at just 26 years old. He's a dynamic player. When you trade for him because the Indians are in such bad shape financially, you probably won't have to give up a whole lot in terms of your prospects. That's great. Just take the money. And then in the offseason, either next year or even during the season this year, like the Dodgers did with Mookie Betts, you sign him to a long-term contract. All good. Francisco Lindor is a very, very good player. Francisco Lindor is not as good as DJ LeMahieu. He's just not. He's younger. You could call him more energetic. You could say he's more athletic. You could say all these things. He's not better. LeMahieu is better. LeMahieu is somebody that the Yankees have seen over the last two seasons. They've seen him prove his worth in every single way. Defensively, all that he does at a very high level, if not elite in some cases, at three different positions. At first base, at second, and at third. And we know what his bat is. He won a batting title this year. His OPS is around 900 each of the last two seasons. He has been unfazed by any sort of pressure of playing in New York. He has been somebody that has simply walked in the door, been an immediate leader, and has represented the New York Yankees in every way possible. Yet, there seems to be this discussion that while it might be posturing when it comes to what the salaries are going to be, that Lindor is the better way to go. Please justify that to me, because I don't see it. Maybe Lindor hits a few more home runs. He's not going to drive in as many runs. He'll drive in a lot. He'll drive in 80, 85. I don't think he's going to be counted on for what LeMahieu did. 85 is a bottom number for LeMahieu hitting leadoff. That's a low level of expectations for him. There are so many things that he does well and so many ways in which he's already proven his worth. Why would you not take the known commodity in this situation just because he's 4 years, 5 years older? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You can tell me all you want about what Lindor does. LeMahieu does a lot of it better. And the Yankees are not going to pay the both of them. This is not going to be a situation where the Yankees decide that they're going to go just hog wild in free agency and spend a ridiculous amount of money this offseason and make a trade for Lindor and bring back LeMahieu and deal with their pitching staff and compete with the Mets, apparently, for Trevor Bauer. I mean, can you honestly remember a situation where in some ways, in a very big way this offseason, the Mets all of a sudden are a lot more in the driver's seat when it comes to big-time players than the Yankees are, and it's not close. The Mets only have somewhere around, $69 million that is committed for next season? That's crazy town. Compared to the Yankees, that number is one that is very workable. A parting gift that the Wilpons actually gave you is the fact that they didn't spend any money over the last couple of years, and now the new guy can come in and do what he wants. And I'm not sitting here telling you that it's all of a sudden going to go to $250 million with the Mets. But the flexibility for the New York Mets actually exists at a much higher level than it does for the Yankees. You can talk about the Yankees and the expectation of winning World Series and such. The expectation may be there, but they've made some bad decisions over the years. They just have. And they're going to have a few more bad decisions that they're going to have to make. They're going to have to make a decision on Aaron Judge here in relatively short order. Unless they can somehow get rid of Giancarlo Stanton. I know that Joel Sherman suggested that they may be able to do it in a couple of deals. If they can, God bless them, but they're taking back a lot of money as well. I mean, they'd be doing that to get rid of the back end of that contract in 4 years. They wouldn't be doing it necessarily to help them now. You know, what I saw from Craig Kimbrell last year, what I saw from Yu Darvish last year would not have me excited if I was somebody that really cared about that team. Kimbrell is not what he used to be. Darvish is a complete waste of money. The Yankees' flexibility prohibits them from going out and getting all those guys. All of a sudden, you have to use the words, get creative when it comes to the Yankees. Think about that. Think outside the box. I mean, just 4 ugly words for every Met fan to consider over the last 20 years, really last 15 or so. Get creative. Think outside the box. It's like curse words. And yet here they are. They don't want to go over the luxury tax. They lost a ton of money. They're pleading some poverty this past season. And listen, I get it. I get why. And until order is somewhat restored, if they truly feel that way, there is not a situation where they can bring the two of them in together. And thus, I don't understand why you would bother with Lindor. I get the discussion about the fact that Gleyber Torres is not a very good shortstop and you would move him back to second base and, oh, you can just let LeMahieu go at that point. Wouldn't do that. Wouldn't do that. LeMahieu could still play first base. You've got Urshela at third. You could trade away Luke Voigt. You could put yourself, when you talk about getting creative, that's getting creative. You could find another shortstop. God forbid you actually consider bringing back Didi Gregorius on a 2-year deal. The guy was very good down in Philadelphia, and he's already fit like a glove. So the options are limited. And if the Yankees decide that Francisco Lindor is the better one than DJ LeMahieu, in no way is that accurate. 800-919-3776. We hit the phones right away. Let's go. What are you doing? It's Carlin on 98.7 ESPN. We will get to how LeMahieu getting shunned by the Yankees and Lindor ending up on the Yankees is actually an ideal situation for the New York Mets. We'll also get to Sandy Alderson making a lot of decisions in a short period of time, although he's probably made most of them already. Andy Martino laid out a timeline for the Mets over the next week, and it sounds like it's going to be a busy, busy few days for the New York Metropolitans once this deal gets all ironed out, this sale. And then there's probably a lonely Jeff Wilpon walking around Citi Field one last time, happening in the next day or two, thinking about, well, not what could have been, more like what should have been. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. Let's go. Let's get started. Phone lines are open. Let's hit them hard when we return. Right now, it is 7:12 on 98.7 ESPN. Oh, by the way, DJ LeMahieu just took home his second straight American League Silver Slugger Award. In case you need more convincing. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Justin is in the car, and he is up next to start it. Well, not next. You're starting us off on 98.7 ESPN. Justin, what do you got?
Thanks for letting me lead off here. You're 100% right about LeMahieu. I will be infuriated if the Yankees let him walk out the door, let alone for the Mets. And just, I've been listening all day, and we're talking about the Yankees do this, the Yankees do that. Since when have the Yankees become a team that we have to choose and pick? I mean, the last time this team won a World Series in 2009, Cashman emptied the bank account to get A.J. Burnett, Sabathia, and Teixeira.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, now we signed Garrett Cole, and it's like, oh, well, the Yankees are poverty-stricken. We have to get under the tax benefits. Last I checked, Steinbrenner still owns the team. There's tons of money. Yankee fans, including myself, go down there year after year after year, spend tons of money at every game. So boo-hoo, they lost a little money last year, and there's no books to even prove it. I'm tired of hearing about this. The hosts obviously have to talk about it, but it's absolutely absurd to think that the Yankees all of a sudden now can't afford Bauer.
Well, but it's what they've been talking about.
Everybody.
It's what they've been talking about, not just us.
And it's not you, I'm infuriating. Well, that's the Steinbrenners.
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden are we now a
Well, you know what it boils down to, Justin? They have spent money poorly in some situations, and it has hamstrung them. And let's call it what it is. Even if they ended up with Ohtani, that would have been a mess. But the overreaction to Ohtani and going and getting Stanton has absolutely killed you.
It's too bad. It's too bad. That's what happens. When you spend money, sometimes you screw up. We screwed up with Carl Pavano. That didn't stop us from getting A.J. Burnett.
I totally agree. The Yankees are not willing to just wash away their mistakes financially anymore. They're not willing to do that.
I'll tell you one thing, Carlin. I'll tell you one thing. If DJ LeMahieu's in a freaking Met uniform next year because we got outbid, I will not be taking my resident spot in the left field bleachers like I do 20 times a season. I will not, because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If we lose him by $4 or $5 million, because that's what it'll come down to. He'll get 90, and the Yankees will offer him 82.
You know what? No, you know what it'll come down to? It'll come down to the Yankees not wanting to give him 4 years, and the Mets will. That's what it'll come down to.
Ridiculous. Which is absolutely ridiculous, because you're willing to take on a 10-year contract for a guy who's never stayed healthy and has only succeeded one time. He had one MVP season for a dead team that didn't play a single meaningful game. So if you don't want to wash your hands of that mistake, fine. But don't give me this crap that we have to get rid of LeMahieu because we can't afford him. Because all of a sudden, Steve Cohen now has the most money in the world. Last I checked, the Steinbrenners have had tons of money running the Yankees for the last 30, 40, 50 years. And it's just absurd, Carlin. It's
Justin,
absurd.
Thank you for the call. And I could not agree with you more on a lot of those fronts. And that's always been their biggest benefit, right? The biggest thing that the Yankees have always been able to do, their advantage, has been the ability to wash away a mistake very easily. Very easily. To just pretend like it never existed. Remember Kay Agawa? That's $20 million out the window like it never even happened. There have been so many times where that kind of money has been able to be washed away, but they can't do that as much anymore. And that's crazy. Look, they did the Garrett Cole thing. That's what they have to do. You know, at the time, we all know what happened, but look what happened behind him this year. Look at some of the money. I mean, the fact that you handed Jay Happ nearly $18 million a year for the last 2 seasons. Jay Happ, who's that one on? You know, and that's coming off the books. So you are now looking at books that are overflowing in some instances with just bad money. Just bad money. And think about it, the core players of your team, Urshela, Torres, Judge. I mean, LeMahieu was only making $12 million. Gary Sanchez, oh God, did I just call him a core player? Gary Sanchez was only making $5 million this past year. Aaron Hicks, that contract, how's that looking for you right now? It was supposed to be a bargain that they felt like they could trade away at any time. How's that working out for you? Joe in Colonia, I'm a little scared. Joe, what's up?
Hey, Chris, first time, long time. Just want to say hello. Thank you for having me on the air.
What do you got?
I always hear people calling saying they're a Jet fan, Giant fan, or whatever.
Right.
I never heard anyone come out and be honest like I'm going to do now and say I'm an oscillating fan and a ceiling fan. And I just want to hear your opinion on that. And I wanted to say thank you, my brother from another mother.
So, Joe, when you're considering your alcoholic consumption for the night, is it
correct
primarily based on alcohol percentage or taste, or just, frankly, the quickness of incoherence that it's capable of delivering?
Well, the funny thing is, I'm not drinking anything. This is what goes on in my head all day.
So, Joe, all right. So, let me ask a different question then. Is this?
Sure, go ahead.
Let me
Shoot.
try out.
Ears.
Thank you for letting me ask. Is this? Let me try out some really bad material before the clubs open back up.
No, come on now. I love you, Chris. You know that. You're my brother from another mother. You know that.
It's the second time you said that. I don't think we have different mothers or the same mother. I don't.
No, I just call because I enjoy your show. I think you're great. You're hilarious. And I just enjoy your show. That's all.
I appreciate that. The oscillating ceiling fan thing, like, just like America, I'd say this, Joe. Be better.
Shoot.
Be better.
I'm like I said, I'm all ears.
Be better. You can be better. You should be better. Be better. Thanks for the call, Joe.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. That felt like an hour and a half. That was roughly a minute 21. David in Oakhurst is next on 98.7 ESPN. David.
Yeah, Chris. I think some of these Yankees fans are just going way over top and going crazy. It's like, God forbid they let DJ LeMahieu go. Well, not for nothing, but if they traded and they got Lindor, something, they could let DJ go. And
Lindor's a terrific player. He's not DJ LeMahieu. He's not.
Okay, but our defense was horrible up the middle this year.
It wasn't because of LeMahieu. He's good defensively. It was because of Gleyber Torres at short. Why don't you just go? Why don't you just go? Why don't you just go and bring back Didi Gregorius on a reasonable contract, as opposed to dedicating $21 million and a potential long-term contract to Lindor, plus the fact that you have to trade for him, so you're going to have to give up some level of prospect.
Okay, because Lindor is younger and he's a phenomenal player. And you move Gleyber back to second, and you put Lindor there at short. And don't get me wrong, I like DJ a lot. Don't get me wrong. But second baseman at how old is he now?
31.
31. Second basemen start breaking down.
Yeah, but that's the thing about him. He doesn't have to play second. He can play third. He can play first. He can do a lot of different things. That's the problem. Thanks for the call. Nothing in that argument is going to wash. You want to argue that you should put Torres back at second. I won't argue with that. He was not good. He was not good at shortstop this season. There's no way I could try to sell that one otherwise. But what I would say to you is this. You can do that and bring back Gregorius. That probably still a very manageable number at 2 years. You already know he fits in. And he's a left-handed bat. God forbid the Yankees bring in another left-handed bat. And he's very good defensively. He's not going to hurt you. That's why they brought him in the first place when they got him. Listen, I never understood why they were so locked in on the idea that Gleyber Torres was going to be a great shortstop. Because from a body standpoint, does he look like somebody that's going to be a great shortstop? He's a great player. He's the future of the New York Yankees. He's the guy that they should dedicate that money to at second base. Like, if you're talking about who you're going to keep for the long term and you have to decide between Torres and Aaron Judge, it's not much of a discussion to me. It's Torres. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Open lines, good time to get through. Mets discussion next, including why Lindor to the Yankees is the best thing that could possibly happen to the Mets. We'll discuss in moments. Sit tight. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. The video stream all over the internet. Go to Twitter, go to Facebook. You can't miss it. Twitter, at Chris Carlin, at CHRISCARLIN. Matthew, usually listen on the radio. Pretty cool to do a live stream on Twitch. Well, listen on the radio, too. Don Show, that's where I meant to go. At Justice for Don on Twitter. Darvish was 8-3 with a 2.01 ERA, 93 Ks and 76 innings pitched. What are you smoking, Chris Carlin? Yeah, I know what Darvish did this past year. Why do you think the Cubs are so anxious to get rid of you, Darvish, when you factor in those kind of numbers? The salary, number one, and what he did the previous 2 years. Let me tell you something. In a garbage-type season like this past year was, I'm taking a guy like you, Darvish's numbers, and I'm throwing him right out the window. Before that, he's a guy that pitched to a 4.5 ERA for the Cubs, and that is not what they paid him that amount of money for. Not in the least. Just going to look at his salary, too. What's left on you, Darvish? Those are some ridiculous numbers that are left. Let's see. 2021, $22 million. Then only $19 million in 2022, and then another $18 in 2023. Yeah. Cubs can't wait to get rid of that $60 million. Trust me. 800-919-3776. Let us hit Milton in Brooklyn. Milton, what you got, big cat?
What's going on, big guy? Great job. You're doing awesome.
Thanks.
Hopefully the family's all good.
Everybody's great.
I know this is over the top, and I know where you're coming from, and I kind of get where Kay's coming from. Do you want a team that's going to win you 100 games again? I think the answer is yes. The problem is that's what the problem is. We have a team that is built to win in the regular season. DJ LeMahieu, Sanchez, you got Voit, you have Stanton, you have Judge, all these big right-handed. This is not Fenway. This is Yankee Stadium. This team, yes, they're fun during the season. They're going to win you all these games. But when you get to the nitty-gritty, when you get to the playoffs, this team is going to fail all the time. So, yeah, I want to sign all these guys, but that's if I want to be entertained from the regular season. Now, if I want to get realistic and I want to win a World Series, I'm going to have to go over the top and piss off Yankee fans, and that's trading Voit, getting rid of Sanchez. I would even trade Torres. I'll get rid of Judge. I will get rid of Stanton if I can. I've got to get rid of.
Well, listen, you're the guy that you want to get rid of is Stanton, but you're not going to be able to do it.
I know.
Okay,
you can.
But when it comes to you're don't go over the edge here. Now,
okay,
the idea on Voit, I think, is a very smart one. He's 29 years old. He had a phenomenal year this year. There are a lot of teams out there that need offensive help. And I think moving Voit and getting great value and selling high on a guy like that, to me, makes an awful lot of sense for the Yankees.
I would love to get Hosmer. I mean, he would be so perfect on this team. He plays the field lefty. He bats lefty. It's Yankee Stadium. I mean, we got to get to Bradley. What's wrong with Bradley? Sign that guy from the Astros. He's a lefty batter, veteran.
Michael Brantley? Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be a perfect playoff hitter. Not during the regular season. He's not going to hit you 30 home runs and like, oh my God. But in the playoffs, that's the type of guy that's going to get you that double with 2 outs.
Where are you playing Brantley? You playing him in left?
In left field.
And then you're bailing on Frazier altogether.
Frazier, I would trade also. I don't need all these righty batters.
No, listen, that I agree with, and thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Milton. There's no doubt. God forbid they add a left-handed bat. And I understand that it's ironic that I'm saying that, considering what I'm saying about Lindor and LeMahieu. God forbid they add a left-handed bat. I'm on board with that 100%, but that's not where I'm talking about doing it. I'm not talking about doing like lefty-righty to me when it comes to making a decision on LeMahieu. No, that has nothing to do with it. But you're right. They need lefty bats. They need lefty bats on that team. You can't go completely unbalanced and just expect to be able to play the best player the entire time. Frank and Clifton next. Frank, go.
For taking the call.
Thank you.
2 things. On the Yankees, I think they should just concentrate on pitching, leave the team alone. Just concentrate on pitching. That's what their problem is. One other thing.
Well, are you talking about at the Trevor Bauer level? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Because that's another $22 million this year. I mean, it's not Garrett Cole, but it's going to cost you $22 million a year for 5 years, something like that.
That's what they need. That's what they need. Also, why are you taking calls from that nut, Joe from Colonia? That guy needs mental help. There's something seriously wrong with that guy.
Joe's
Maybe
fine.
some shock therapy or something. That guy's crazy.
Joe's fine. He's harmless.
He's a nut job. Thanks, Carlin. Have a good night.
See you, Frank. I'm assuming he's your brother. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Let us hit, that's Spike in Jersey. Spike, what's going on?
There's my guy. Just sent you a picture. I dropped my wife and kid off at the airport and headed down. They're down in Tampa now looking for a place for this, winter and then eventually a house to buy. We're selling. I can't go now, unfortunately, but so I got a buddy. I said to the lady down the block, I'll take your old Rhodesian Ridgeback. I sent you a picture. I got a 130-pound dog here.
Oh, my Lord.
No,
I'm seeing this picture on Twitter. That's a big dog.
He's a big boy, yeah. Well, Rhodesian Ridgebacks, they were the history is not to bore you, but they herded elephants back in the old days, Rhodesia. But this guy's just a big oaf, He hears a sound and boom, he gets scared. But man, when he snores, I swear I saw my lamp shake. He went to sleep and he took a deep snore, and I thought the lamp started shaking. Got these thin lamps,
Yeah.
But unique company, unique company. I like that Twitch thing. That's a cool brick wall you got behind you. I like that.
Yes, I tore down the entire wall in my office, in my house, and brick by brick built that.
Nice.
I did that all on my own. Took days,
So,
tons of sweat you wouldn't believe. Of course, that is a complete lie, and it's just fake wallpaper.
oh,
That's all it is.
Well, look, let me tell you, it comes across whatever. You can make up anything. Carlin Chronicles, some of that I think is a little embellished. Would I be right?
No, they are not embellished. They are all true. They are given, let's just say, they are given a writer's quill. So at least to, add an entertainment value to a story that is 100% accurate. And tonight's Carlin Chronicles at 9 p.m. for those curious.
Made my night.
It is tonight, 9 p.m.
I'll switch over. I got the order to double meatball pizza. They're not here.
Well, it's ironic that you say that. And thanks for the
right.
call, Spike, because tonight's episode is entitled The Chicken Parm Hero. And I think for fans of a show that I used to work on, this may be one you want to check out. I'll leave it at that. 741, Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. Why Lindor to the Yankees is the best thing that could ever happen to the Mets. We'll tell you in moments when we come back. I'm Chris. You're you. Start dialing. Let's go. Phones are open for you. Back in a moment. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. 7:45. Back to the phones in a moment. 800-919-3776. Open lines for you, so let's do that. We also will have the Carlin Chronicles a little bit later on. Tonight's episode, The Chicken Parm Hero. If the Yankees decide that Francisco Lindor is the way to go, as opposed to DJ LeMahieu, they're making a massive mistake. I've made that very clear. But it would be the greatest thing that could happen to the New York Mets. Because in my opinion, at that point, if you're Steve Cohen and you don't go and try to bring LeMahieu over, you're out of your freaking mind. I just want you to think about this possible lineup for a minute. And I know people have talked about Lindor, and this is another reason, when it comes to the Mets, that is, this is another reason why LeMahieu's better. A better fit, too, for the Mets. Think about having Alonso at first. You're still stuck with Cano. He's playing second, but at the moment, you could still have the possibility of the universal DH next year. So that's always possible. You could have LeMahieu at either second or third with Jimenez, who I absolutely love at shortstop. Jimenez, he could be a poor man's Lindor for all we know. And then you're talking about in the outfield, if you go out and you do the right thing and you add George Springer and you play him in center field, and then you've got Conforto, and then you've got either McNeil or Dom Smith in left, and you've got Nimmo, maybe on the bench. You've got Rosario, maybe on the bench. And you talk about, maybe we could trade some of those guys away. Here's the thing. Let's argue the Mets give LeMahieu 4 years and $80 million. 4 years and $86 million. Be a tremendous deal for them to make. What has been one of the biggest problems with the Mets over the last 10 years? It has been the reliance on purely the starting lineup and not having true depth to your team. So Dom Smith's going to be your everyday left fielder. Let's say that. Maybe Cano's your DH. You could play McNeil at second. Maybe all that's the case. You've got the possibility of having Rosario as a strong bench player. If you don't have the universal DH, you've got the possibility of, maybe Smith or McNeil being a versatile bench player type. You've got a lot of different options there. And that's one thing that the Mets have never really had. They've never really had enough options. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if it's James McCann. I don't know if it's Real Muto. I don't know who it is. But we talked earlier about the Mets having to get rid of some words in their vocabulary and how words like getting creative and thinking outside the box might actually apply to the Yankees more so this offseason. That's because the Mets are in a position to simply add. And it doesn't mean go out and buy everybody. But it does mean go buy a couple of guys. It truly does. Because why not give yourself the opportunity that you haven't had in a long time to truly have a deep team? To have guys coming off the bench that are very good players. Why not take advantage of that? When you put yourself, J.D. Davis, you're going to trade him. Okay, you want to talk about that? That's fine. But you could also have J.D. Davis as a bench player. You could have Rosario as a bench player. These are pretty good players to have coming off the bench. There's not an immediate need to trade guys away just because they're not going to be starters at particular positions if you make a couple of moves that are going to make you better. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to shift around money or make it, payroll neutral. You don't have to do that. What you can do is just flat out make your team better overall and deeper. How nice would that be to have true depth on the team? Something that the Mets have not had in a really, really long time. Let's hit Stan. He's in Marlboro. He's next on 98.7 ESPN. Stanley!
Sam.
Sam!
No.
Sam!
Yeah.
Sam!
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. What's going on?
No, it's all good. Listen, I don't mean, the Mets, we'll see. I mean, we've all been dreaming of this day. I just never thought it would happen in our lifetime. The Wilpon selling. It should have happened the
You
first
said that
time.
like Marv when the Rangers won the Cup. Something that most people did not think they would see in their lifetime.
Yeah, listen, man. When I look at Bud Selig's legacy, and this is what I didn't want to talk about this, but this is actually like my personal belief. I see he only made two mistakes. The steroid thing, obviously overlooked to boost the popularity, and two was not forcing the Wilpons to sell the Mets when they did. It holds near and dear because I want the two New York teams to be competitive, right? You don't want the Yankee fans to look at the Mets as like, oh, our little, brothers or sisters. So, listen, I'm happy for. I never thought it would happen. Truly, yes. 2020 of all years. So.
Yeah, exactly. Look, that was. I know that you would hold that against Bud, but Bud was good friends with Fred Wilpon. That was never going to happen. And as we saw at the time, I mean, they even lent money to the Wilpons to be able to make their operating budget, So they were always going to do everything they could to help them. Bud and Fred were friends.
Yeah, and never said anything to defend it or address it. So it's all good. Listen, it's in the past. Focus on the future, and it looks bright. So, and the Yankees, focus on the bullpen. The historic 2015 Royals, you could redo that. Zach Britton, ground ball machine every year. Look at all the qualified relief. No one gets more ground balls.
Well, he's back, and that's fine. I would feel a lot better if Britton was the one that was closing.
Well, they exercise the right on his contract, so they have him for 3 more years, and Chapman too. So one more solid reliever, and out of eat the salary, cut your loss, and try to have an AJ Burnett trade. I'm sorry, the guy is. And I love him because of the number 0 thing. But, seriously. And last thing, the Jets. Listen, the future looks bright. Number 1 overall pick is almost secured. And,
wait, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. I just want to. Future looks bright. That's what you said. Okay.
For the Jets. Listen, Joe Douglas.
No, I caught that.
Listen, the picks he's acquiring, I now see it. Everyone used to say Trader Mike, who now works for ESPN, and I love hearing the guy's insight when he was the Jets GM. I love his style. He was aggressive, trading up. Joe Douglas is the opposite. He's trading away, building foundation. I can see now how it helps. Denzel Mims. Sportsbook had him, people were betting who's the next highest odds to be drafted. Pick 31, he was the highest odds, and he fell all the way down. And Douglas got him, trading down. So I hope he's playing and he's producing. So, listen.
It's early. It's 2 games. And look, I'm as high on Joe Douglas as anybody. I really do believe in his ability to lead this organization into the future. What I would say is I'm not going to say that the future is fully bright yet until we know what they are doing with those 9 picks this year. The most value that draft picks have is actually before the picks are made. That's where Joe is going to earn his money this coming year. The first draft they had with Becton, with Mims, we'll see beyond that. Those first 2 picks, though, they're looking okay so far.
You forgot the punter in the 6th round.
Braden Mann, you're right. Mann's been good.
Come on. So you can get, but, those positions, maybe get our next kicker because the kicker has been a revolving door with the Jets. Nick Folk, is that guy available? Sign in for the Jets. Yeah,
Nick Folk is, I think he's with the Patriots, isn't he? Thanks for the call. He's not available right now. You don't have to worry about drafting the next kicker, okay? Maybe they will down the line. I'm not getting worked up about that. 9 draft picks this year, 9 next year. That's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of flexibility to move around if you want to trade up or trade down to go get guys. You just can't afford to miss very much. There's not a lot of leeway here. I think he'll get it done, frankly. In fact, I'll be surprised if he doesn't get it done. I'll go as far as to say that. James, New Jersey, next, 98.7 ESPN. James, what's up?
Chris, my brother, you must be having a date with your ex-felon girlfriend or something, man. Because
all right, she wasn't a girlfriend; she was an acquaintance. Let's call it a brief dalliance, if you will.
she was a little ting. I understand.
Very
but
little.
she wasn't. She had that weight though. But Chris, you are
She was
insane. I
lovely.
don't know what you've been watching from the Mets for the last 10 years that makes you think our bench is the biggest problem.
I didn't say your bench is the biggest problem.
Yes, you said our
No, I
depth-
said it would be nice to have a bench that would help. What I said is that they need to go and get George Springer, and they need to go sign LeMahieu.
That's fine.
And they
All
also
of that,
need
but
pitching.
I'm not worried about having Dom Smith or anybody on my bench because the worst problem we've had the last 10 years is our bullpen. So I'm fine with not, I thought about
I didn't say the bench was the worst part of it. It's been a problem. The bullpen has been a big problem. All I'm saying is now you're not in a position where you have to worry about being revenue neutral, as they talk about. They've only got $69 million roughly committed next season. So you can do a lot of different things and not necessarily get rid of guys in the process. You can just add. Just add. Just add.
Oh, I love it when you talk to me nice, Chris. I keep forgetting we got Stevie here now. I'm so stressed and it's PTSD.
I understand. And James, and thanks for the call. I know that there are a lot of people who are so excited about this. I'm always, I don't know if pragmatist is the right word. It's not. I'm just more always cautiously optimistic in that I want to wait to see the ink on the paper and everything go through, and they're gone. That's all. I don't think that's too much to ask. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN Carlin. 98.7 ESPN. A Jets mystery we have to solve next. ESPN, 800-919-3776. I'm confused, and I know that's nothing new, but I was confused earlier today when I heard Adam Gase talk about Sam Darnold, who, as you'll remember, this past week seemed to re-injure that shoulder. I don't know if you've checked the standings lately. The Jets have not won a game as of yet. But earlier today, Adam Gase was asked about Sam Darnold and if he might be playing Monday night against the New England Patriots.
What are his chances of playing on Monday?
Right now, I feel pretty good about it. It's just going to be about if we have if something doesn't feel right, when we do get him out there. I think his mindset is, it'll take something not feeling right for him not to play. We just felt like this was a chance to give him one more day of rest. Being able to do the third down red area stuff is, something that we always want to make sure that he feels really comfortable with, which that'll be the next couple of days. So we'll kind of see what happens after today, how he's feeling.
So let me see. Sam Darnold, who injured his shoulder once earlier this year, who is somebody that you still hold in high regard and you want to give every opportunity to, is being allowed to make the decision to play on Monday night when this is the second time this year that he has banged up that shoulder. And you have a bye week following the game. You are going to let him go out there and play. And you might argue, well, we've got the bye week. Get him a little extra rest. How about just making sure that Darnold is 100% healthy in 2 weeks when you come back? How about you give the kid an opportunity to rest? He has been absolutely dismantled this year. He has had no chance, and by the GM's own admission the other day, they have not given him enough help. So why? Oh, why would you ever let him make the decision? I love the guttiness and grittiness of Sam Darnold. I love the fact that he wants to go out there and play. And I love the fact that he is just so locked in on trying to make this happen. You even hear in the promo for the Michael Kay show his answer to Don, I don't care what anybody else says right now. I'm worried about myself and just trying to make this team better and do all the right things we can to win. This guy has done everything the right way in terms of handling himself off the field. And he's gotten hurt this season. And he wants to go out there and play when he's not right against a Bill Belichick defense. Yes, they're 2-5. They're not what they have been in years past. But somebody has to step in and make the decision for him in a case like this. I tell you what, if Sam's out there Monday night, it's just another befuddling decision made by the coach. And I'm going to pin that one on the coach. Because at that point, he needs to step in and say, no. Sam, you cannot play. Yeah, Sam is their best quarterback. We know this. And I understand the instinct is to want to win games. The instinct is never to go out and not play hard. Take the decision out of his hands. Adam, the die is cast, okay? We all know you're not coming back. You know you're not coming back. You could even say that the decision needs to be taken out of Adam Gase's hands and put in Joe Douglas's hands. He needs to step in and say, no, Sam's not playing. And not just because they want to have a better chance at losing. No, for Sam's own good. It's utterly ridiculous that you would expose him to that type of situation when he has injured his throwing shoulder twice this season. And you have a bye week after. A golden opportunity to give him a chance to just rest. Why would you not do that? Why would you not do that? It's a silly idea to let him go out there. And it's just if something doesn't feel quite right. What doesn't feel quite right is the way this is all being handled. And I'm hoping that on Monday night, Sam is on the sideline with the earpiece in and not dressed for the game, because that's where he needs to be. Paul is on Long Island. He's next, 98.7 ESPN. Paul, what's going on?
Hey, Chris, been following you since Beer Money, man.
Beer Money. Let me tell you something. Was there a better gig than handing me a microphone, $130 to give away, and they said, listen, just go in the bar, ask them questions. If they get it wrong, embarrass them, and knock back a couple of cold ones in between.
Yeah, they should have made a movie out of that.
And I did that for 2 years, and the third year I didn't do it, and it wasn't my choice. They decided to put somebody else on it, and I think it was an outside production company that did it. But if I had done it, I would have had to have been whatever. Never mind. I missed doing Beer Money. It was a blast.
It was funny. Hey, the Jets. I mean, Joe Douglas, I know he took all that responsibility, but can the guy put together a line? I mean, those guys are horrible, except for the big tackle. He's a beast. The middle of the line is just, it's not NFL caliber. And there's no excuse. The guy is supposed to be an O-lineman guru.
I really can't disagree with anything that you're saying. I know that the priority was to try to go and get
team.
I think the priority, I know the priority was to try to get Jack Conklin, and he ended up signing with Cleveland, and there wasn't a second or third tackle that you wanted to pay a ridiculous amount of money to, so they took the money and tried to add volume to the situation, and that hasn't worked.
The guards in the center are horrible.
I can't listen.
They get beat as soon as the ball is snapped. Bam.
I can't argue when McGovern is the 34th rated center in the league this year, and there are 32 teams.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of guys,
and that's actually true. That's the case. That's actually true.
How are they even giving out awards? I mean, are they serious?
What do you mean?
Like end of year awards based on 60 games?
Listen, I agree, okay? I don't even, listen, I love DJ LeMahieu. I hate the fact that he's winning a batting title is how they're putting it. I mean, it's not a batting title. It was in 162 games.
Next year, but I mean, please.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, Paul. Thanks for the call. I don't disagree with that whatsoever. It's ridiculous. They shouldn't be handing out, the really important awards. And DeGrom's not going to win the Cy Young this year. He's top 3. Bauer's going to end up winning it. But, I feel good that all of the teams got a chance to play, that the Dodgers got the championship that they have been pursuing. And frankly, they deserved a championship, even if it was just a 60-game season after what we found out about the Astros. Deserved it completely after how they got hosed in 2017, as it turns out. I just think that the other awards that are given away this year just don't have anywhere near the same significance. Things that were accomplished this year outside of individual games like no-hitters or whatever, nothing like that really mattered. The championship ended up fine by me, primarily because it was, as it turned out, the two best teams during the season. Dodgers won 43 games, the Rays won 40. They were the two best teams in their league. So the fact that it was decided between the two of them, hey, that's fantastic. I'm all for that. But I hated the fact that at the beginning of all of this, you were handing away the very same trophy that some of the all-time great teams have gotten and in essence, equating the significance of a champion this year to some of those teams like the 98 Yankees, like the 03 Red Sox, or 04 Red Sox, excuse me. historically significant teams. I hated that idea at the beginning of the year. Right now, just because of how it played out, I'm okay with it. But if any one of those other teams had won it, I would have felt the same way. Carlin at 800-919-3776. Open lines at 9 o'clock. The Carlin Chronicles returns. Tonight's episode is entitled The Chicken Parm Hero. For fans of a particular show that I used to be involved in many years ago, I would call this a must listen. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 8:13. Hit the open lines when we come back. Also on Twitter, at Chris Carlin, at CHRISCARLIN. The live stream all over the internet at ESPN New York on Facebook, at ESPN NY 98.7 over on Twitter. Check it out there. We've got the video up. You can see me. You can see me and what's in my office right now. Beautiful artwork. Things that are just priceless to me. And of course, you can listen on ESPN, the ESPN app, ESPNNewYork.com, tune in, the radio at 98.7, and smart speakers at Play 98.7 ESPN. Just do it all. It's all there. There's not a place you can't get us. 8:13. Back in a sec on the phones. 98.7 ESPN 800-919-3776. Some tweets at Chris Carlin in relation to the Yankees and having room for both DJ LeMahieu and Francisco Lindor. This from Vince Sharma 12 on Twitter. I think you have space for both. Maybe the Yankees do trade Torres plus prospects for Lindor and work it that way. Got to shed salary for that, so you might see Chapman and someone like Ottavino also get traded. First of all, it's not going to take Gleyber Torres to get Lindor. Secondly, you're not going to trade Gleyber Torres. Thirdly, you got to remember when you're taking on that amount of money, the prospects are going to be down. You could see a mid-level, high-level prospect, but not somebody that is a top-notch prospect going in a deal like that because the Indians want to get rid of the $21 million. Now, when it comes to Chapman, he's got a full no trade, but I wouldn't mind exploring it. I really wouldn't. If there is somebody that's interested in Chapman, and frankly, I don't know that there will be at the number he's at. I think he's at $20 million. At that level, I don't know that anybody's going to want to pay Chapman and bring him in. I think that is unlikely to be the case. But if somebody wanted to, I would absolutely talk to Chapman and be like, you know what? What do you think about getting a trade and somebody adds another year onto your contract? May not be the worst idea in the world. This from Pete Bell. Isn't he the coach in Blue Chips? It's comforting to know that the great Brian Cashman, who has won for his last 20 seasons at a cost of $4 billion, still gets to make all these decisions. Brian Cashman has basically, as I heard Michael call it one time, and who's going to know better than him, has basically become a part of the Steinbrenner family. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Nick Singer, agree with your points on air, Chris. No brainer. He's been the guy for the Yankees in reference to LeMahieu. These past 2 years, why fix something that ain't broken? That's my point. LeMahieu has done everything you have needed him to do the last 2 years. Yes, he's 31 and Lindor is 26. DJ LeMahieu is a better player than Francisco Lindor. That is just fact. Lindor may be a little more athletic. He may be able to do a few more things in terms of running the bases and such. You give me LeMahieu, what he can do offensively and defensively, and the versatility that he provides and the leadership that he provides. Boy, that's like the Yankees stumbling onto an absolute gem at no money, and they found a guy that has fit them better than anyone else ever could. And frankly, is the most emblematic version of a Yankee since Derek Jeter. And yeah, I'm including Aaron Judge in that. Richard in Manhattan is next on 98.7 ESPN. Richard.
Chris, Brett Gardner in his last 52 at-bats, including the playoffs, was 20 for 52. 20 for 52. That's a 385 batting average. He had a 520 on-base percentage over those last 52 at-bats, approximately 15, 16 games. Why are the Yankees playing so hard with the guy? He's a great left fielder, pretty good center fielder. He backs up three guys who are the most injury-prone guys in baseball, Stanton, Judge, and Hicks. He's been a loyal Yankee for a couple of $1 million. This guy is great insurance. Why are they going to go search somewhere else? I don't understand it.
I think it's a couple of things. It's what is Gardner looking for? They gave him the $2.5 million on the buyout of the $10 million option. They don't want to pay him that level of money for another season. And Richard, remember, there have been times the last couple of years, including this past year, earlier in the year, where Brett Gardner looked absolutely lost at the plate. So you can't just base it on those 52 at-bats.
Right, but he did finish strong, and that's good reason to hope. All right, Chris, let me ask you this. In the Super Bowl era, so that's about 55 years, from 1967 on, 55 years, let's say. 39 teams, 39 teams out of those 55 years have started 7-0, 7-0, 7-0.
Right.
Just as Pittsburgh is now. They're the only team that is 7-0. Out of those 39 teams that started 7-0, how many do you think made it to the Super Bowl? Made it.
Started 7-0, made it to the Super Bowl out of 39 teams. That's a good question, Richard. I'm going to say 24.
No, you're a little high. So you think
Really?
Yeah, you think 60% of the teams made it. No, just below 50%. 19.
19. Okay.
19 out of 39 made it.
Okay.
So Pittsburgh should be 2-1. So if you can go to Vegas now and get better than 2-1 for Pittsburgh to make it to the Super Bowl, I'm sure Kansas City has a higher, and Tampa may be a little higher. But if you're, if you can get better than, all right, out of the 39 that made it, how many you think won it? 19 made it.
19 made it. How many do I think won it? I would say 8.
10.
10.
So one quarter.
Okay.
So if you can get good, better than 4-1 Pittsburgh winning, or better than 2-1 Pittsburgh getting there, I think you got to do it, right? If past history is a measure.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. So I'm looking right now. You know what they are right now, Richard, on FanDuel Sportsbook?
Okay, what are they to win it?
All right, I'll throw it back at you, okay? To win Super Bowl 55, what do you think they are right now?
Maybe 6-1?
Wow, Richard. You hit it right on the button.
Okay, so I think that's a
Plus
good bet.
600 right now to win the Super Bowl. Richard providing wagering value. I love it.
Common sense. To me, this is all analytics.
The problem is that nobody believes that Pittsburgh, even though they're 7-0, they don't believe that Pittsburgh can beat Kansas City.
And Chris, one last thing.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you as far as the baseball season and the awards. I think the competition is still the same. It's just like an exam in school. You may not be tested on, it's not a midterm, but it's a quarterly exam, right? And you're marked on the same curve. You're competing against the same students. So everything is the same. It's just over a shorter course of time. So I see it, and I really think this baseball season was great. Your league championships went 7 games. You had the 2 best teams in baseball play in the World Series. The only thing you lacked was a 7-game World Series. I think it was great.
Yeah, listen, I enjoyed watching it, Richard, but I'm not going to sit here and equate it. I'm just not going to do it. I don't think it's the same. And thanks for the call. I think it's more about, Richard, when you look at those other teams that have accomplished those things, they've had to run more of a gauntlet. They've had to, even on the individual level, to win a batting title, to hit 360 over the course of 162 games is a hell of a lot different than doing it over 60 games. It just is. I'm going to let you in a little secret. Our program director, Ryan Hurley, believes Richard in Manhattan to be Richard Kind, the actor. No, I know it's not. I see where he's coming from. I know it's not. Richard Kind, to me, very underrated funny. Especially Curb Your Enthusiasm. Was funny on Brockmire. Very good. Jake Greenwich, next, 98.7 ESPN. Jakey.
Oh, I don't know how I'm going to follow Richard in Manhattan.
Godspeed, son. Many have tried.
I just wanted to talk about Daniel Jones. I'm not exactly familiar with your feelings on this, but I don't think he's going to be – I think he'll be an average quarterback 4 to 5 years. And if I'm the Giants, that's just not good enough. I mean, would you generally agree that you need a great quarterback to be a great team in the NFL?
I think that if you're the Giants right now, you have to think that things are not necessarily headed in the right direction, and you need to see a lot in the last 8 games of the year. Because when you start talking about 4 to 5 years, that's not the time frame for NFL teams anymore. And they can't afford to sit around and wait for somebody to develop like that. I look at Jones right now. The turnovers are killers. what aggravated me to no end, and people have heard me say this the last few days, and they may be sick of it, how many throws he missed the other night. Just deep throws, big plays that he absolutely missed in that game that were just killers for the Giants. And frankly, throws that if he connects on one of them, they win the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Now, look, Jake, I mean, I don't know how you can look at him right now and feel great about the future. I don't know how you can. He needs to play. I don't believe that they should run Colt McCoy out there this week, but I think that Jones has an awful lot to prove in the second half of an otherwise meaningless season.
Is there anyone besides Fields to get in the draft? I know Lawrence.
There's Lawrence and Fields, and there is the guy, and I can't even pretend to even remember his name, and so I will Google it. But they are that is regarded as the third quarterback prospect, and he is a quarterback at North Dakota State, and they played one game this year so that they could showcase him. You know, they weren't going to play any season at all. Trey Lance is his name. Trey Lance. I can't tell you a damn thing about him. I haven't seen him play one down of football. I could not pick him out on the street. All right, good talk. See you out there. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, it's the top two, and then we'll see. I am very interested once again to see Justin Fields this Saturday night. Rutgers is playing at Ohio State Saturday night, 7:30 on BTN, and of course on the Rutgers Sports Network, presented by RWJBH. All right, I'm giving you a little freebie right there. But, you know, got to protect investments, you know, financially in me. At any rate, I am very curious to see Fields in person again and how much he has developed from last season. He's a dynamic player. There's no getting around that. Is he on the level of Trevor Lawrence? Personally, I would put it at 1 and a clearly defined 2 right there. Maybe my opinion will change after seeing him live again this coming week. 800-919-3776. Open lines. Excellent chance for you to call and discuss the Jets. Wow, did I just say that? I did. And why they would ever consider playing Sam Darnold on Monday night. But more so, hot stove. Why the Yankees cannot approach DJ LeMahieu and Francisco Lindor the same when evaluating who they need. They can't do it. And we'll tell you why it's got to be Lindor, or rather, why it's got to be LeMahieu. And if Lindor goes to the Yankees, why it's the greatest news that the Mets could potentially ever want to hear. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN at 8:30, right here. Jersey. 98.7 ESPN. 8:35. Joe, go.
What's going on, Carlin? Thanks for taking my call. I had no idea you were actually going to talk about LeMahieu and Lindor, but I thought it was interesting because Michael Kay actually said it earlier. I was just wondering what your thoughts are because, I mean, he has a point. You do get a better shortstop and you get a better second baseman when you move over Torres to second, and you get a younger player for a longer deal rather than paying DJ the 3 or 4 years, and he's older. I mean,
I understand the logic of it. I just don't agree with it. And the reason why I don't agree with it is because it takes a special player to be a Yankee and to deliver at the level that LeMahieu has the last 2 years. And he, to me, does not look like somebody that is going to tail off quickly. I'm very comfortable giving LeMahieu a 4-year contract with the belief that he'll still be playing at a pretty high level at age 35. Now, I get it. Lindor is a terrific shortstop, and by bringing him over, you are strengthening the up-the-middle defense considerably because you can move Torres back to second. It's not like LeMahieu was the problem defensively at second. It was Torres at short strictly. So if you want to bring one of the two in or have one of the two back, I'm bringing LeMahieu back because of not just the ability to hit, the versatility of where you can play him, which is first, second, and third. And I know everything about the guy already. And I don't have to trade for him, which I am going to give up some level of prospect to get him. I'm going to get him for $21 million this coming year, and then I have to pay him long-term beyond that, whereas LeMahieu, I know, is an incredibly clutch player. And frankly, there are not 5 other players in baseball right now that I would rather have at the plate in a clutch situation than DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling on it because, look, Lindor's a great player, but I can bring Didi Gregorius back and strengthen that defense just as well and play Torres at second.
You got to give up the bat. Then you got to get rid of one or the other.
Well, my feeling is that I would look into trading Voit because I think Voit is going to bring real value. And he's not a younger guy. He's 29 years old. And if I can capitalize on Voit off of this great season and play LeMahieu at first, I would do that in a minute. And maybe I can get a good amount back for Voit.
Yeah, but the Yankees won't do that because they're all about the home run, and he leads the league in the home run. So
maybe they need to be about the clutch.
I would love to.
Screwing around with LeMahieu is the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong thing to do. And what's very clear is it's not going to be both. It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah. I would much rather have LeMahieu for sure, of course.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Joe. Look, I love Lindor as a player. I think he's terrific. Nope. And the best thing that the Yankees could ever do for the Mets would be to trade for Lindor. Because that opens the door so wide for the Mets to stick it to the Yankees, to throw down the gauntlet for the first time, to kind of fire the first shot across the bow of the new ownership with Steve Cohen, and give LeMahieu 4 years and $80 million. To me, that's not going to be a signing where it's Jason Bay, where he's done something great somewhere else. No. This guy doesn't have that demeanor. This guy isn't bothered by anything. He's as consistent as it gets. The Mets could bring LeMahieu over here and stick him in that lineup. And let's just, you could potentially have the universal DH next year. It's something that's being talked about. Major League Baseball wants the expanded playoffs again, and the Players Association doesn't see that as quite a fair enough trade-off to give them that in order to get the universal DH. But let's argue for a second, even if they do get it. You have the option of playing LeMahieu at either second or third, and you could DH Cano. Or, if it's not there, and you have to play Cano at second base, you could play him at third. You could have McNeil or Dominic Smith in left field. I'm absolutely not considering bringing George Springer in to play center. It just presents so many options, and it adds such a great veteran, no-nonsense leader. I mean, how much do we have to see from LeMahieu to prove that he's worth it? He's not 36 years old. He's 31. 31. Get your head out of your analytics, if you know what I'm saying. I didn't exactly, hide that very well in there. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 841 at 800-919-3776. Open lines, more calls coming up, top of the hour. It is the Carlin Chronicles returning. Tonight's episode, The Chicken Parm Hero. And if you were a fan of a particular show at another radio station that I worked on several years ago, this would be one that you would want to hear, I would think. Just saying. Let's step aside for a moment, shall we? Return with your calls. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN.
It has been a
Twitter, at Chris Carlin. You just said people don't believe the Steelers can beat the Kansas City Chiefs this season. So you're saying Cam Hayward, Stephen Tuitt, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Minka Fitzpatrick, Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Conner can't beat the Chiefs? That's from Mike W. Steelers on Twitter. Mike, A, I'm a Steelers fan, and B, yes, it's exactly what I'm saying. Anthony Romano, if they want us fans to believe all they want to do is win, then don't do everything they can do it to do it. They are wrong if they think that we're going to continue to believe that. It's referencing the Yankees. Listen, it's understandable that as a Yankee fan, you have no interest in hearing about why they're not going to do the things that they used to do. I get that completely. They are not the Yankees of old days. They cannot cover up those mistakes that they used to make. It used to be so easy to do. That's not the case anymore because this is not the same old Yankees. It's not willing. They're not willing to go over the luxury tax. They're just not willing to do it, especially when they lost the money they did this year. It's a shame. Brandon, Staten Island is next on 98.7 ESPN. Brando.
Yo, man, how's it going?
Does anybody actually call you Brando?
Yeah, actually, I work with a couple guys that call me Brando.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're on track.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you ready for this?
Go.
Why in the world would anyone think about trading DJ LeMahieu when you have
not trading, you mean not re-signing?
Signing, correct. Not re-signing. When you could have trade pieces like Luke Voigt, whose stock rose this year, you have Andujar, you have Frazier, you have your whole 10 that you could trade. Why would we not sign LeMahieu when we could go out, sign Didi, move him to short, put LeMahieu at first, and then you move Torres to second?
Listen, I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did. I think that the biggest problem here is the idea that the Yankees sometimes get infatuated with other players as opposed to their own guys. And this should not be the case with LeMahieu because you're afraid to give him a fourth year. I mean, the guy has done everything the right way, and he's not 36 years old. He's not asking for an 8-year contract. What are you going to end up giving Lindor at 26?
Correct.
You're going to end up giving Lindor 8 years and $160 million or something like that, or 8 years and $200 million. Is that a better deal than LeMahieu? Absolutely not. That's a massive mistake, comparatively speaking.
I agree. And what about signing Didi, a guy like Didi again, over and bringing him back to New York to play shortstop?
I don't disagree with that at all. And thanks for the call, Brandon. I mean, to me, it's a pretty simple fix in a lot of ways. You know, letting Didi go last year and assuming that Torres could play shortstop was a mistake. It was a mistake. And it's a simple fix. And if you turn around and start, this is where the analytics get in the way. If you turn around and took a guy like Voigt, you can look at a guy like that and just tell what he just did is the peak. This season, that is peak Luke Voigt. And he's 29? And you want to keep him because he's cheaper, and you don't know for sure that he's going to be able to come back and play at the level that he did this past year. You want to keep him over a guy like LeMahieu when you could take Voigt and trade him and get a high return for him. You know, an idea that, and again, I want to credit him, Joel Sherman did come up with, was taking a guy like Voigt and someone else and trading him for a guy like Pablo Lopez from the Marlins, because the Marlins desperately need power, and Voigt is not getting paid yet. But he's not young. Are we numb to the idea or just ignorant to the idea that Voit could be the right-handed Justin Bohr. And we don't feel like you don't want to get out in time on that. Dear God, be smart. Be smart. Capitalize when you can. You can put up your comments on the live stream as well. The live stream is over on Twitch. It's on ESPN. It's on Chris Carlin Sports on Twitch. It's on ESPN New York's Facebook page. It's on at ESPN NY 98_7. 98.7 ESPN's Twitter page. It's all there, and you can put your comments up there. How about our guy Jarv? Have to sell high on Voit. Of course you do, Jarv. I agree. You have to sell high on Voit. If you're sitting around and hoping that he's going to continue to do the same thing that he has done, I think it's hoping against hope. And, you know, the other thing, too, here is this. You know, we talked about how if you're the Yankees and you're setting up the Mets pretty well if you go and get Lindor because they can turn around and sign LeMahieu. Sandy Alderson's back. And he's going to be picking everybody that is going to be running this organization for the future, from soup to nuts. And I think it's great. I'm glad that Sandy's back. Frankly, when he was sick, I hated the idea of how that was all handled. It was, yeah, Sandy needs to go away and take care of himself, but it was also kind of forcing him out. Not kind of, it was. And I didn't like the way that went down. So now he's back and he can assemble this organization and get the decision makers in place, whether it's Chris Antonetti or any of the other people they've talked about, whether they're going to have two different people running baseball operations. It's all going to unfold here very quickly as soon as the sale becomes official. Brody, you would imagine, is going to get cut loose. You know, maybe they keep a couple of his advisors. Maybe they keep Omar around because Omar is a guy that Steve Cohen has a relationship with. And I could absolutely see that. Allard Baird, good baseball guy. Maybe they keep him around, but they're going to have a lot of different people that are going to get involved and looking at the decisions they can make. And those are people that are going to be picked by Sandy Alderson. This is someone that does not suffer fools easily and somebody that's incredibly smart. Incredibly smart. I'm thrilled that he's the one that's going to be making these decisions and really assembling how this is going to go for the Mets. I don't think you could have a better overseer right now than Alderson for this. Because think about it. If you're Steve Cohen and you're stepping in and you had been minority owner already of the team and you have a relationship with Alderson and you know what he's about, why not bring institutional knowledge to the situation? Not of the ownership, but of how the organization was run and how the organization should be run. Because he's been around plenty of winners before. There's a reason that this guy doesn't go very long without being employed by somebody. Can we agree on that? I think we can. So if that's the case, Steve Cohen's making a great decision here by having Alderson be that person. I think in every way, the Mets are headed very much in the right direction. When was the last time that you could honestly feel that way? It has been a long, long time. Excited about all the pitchers, about Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom and Steven Matz and everywhere they were headed. You know, that never came together the way that you wanted to. You had the one good run in 2015, but you were never able to do much more beyond that because you were always limited and you were always in the position of hoping and relying entirely too much on hope and not on depth and backup plans and such. Let's go catch lightning in a bottle. Let's go keep our payroll neutral moves for the upcoming season. Is there a more exciting phrase than payroll neutral to get a fan base going? I don't think so. All that's out the window. No more get creative. No more think outside the box. Those are things that are all going away right now. It's Carlin at 800-919-3776. In just moments, tonight's episode of the Carlin Chronicles. It is entitled The Chicken Parm Hero. It's a little bit on the shorter side, but I think if you were a fan of a particular radio show that I used to work on, this would strike me as one that you would probably want to hear. So that is coming up in just moments. Plus, we have another hour to discuss all things Mets, all things Yankees, as the hot stove starts to warm up. And why in the ever-loving you-know-what is Sam Darnold, playing on Monday night? We'll answer that question, or at least try to. All of it ahead. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN.
At the Total Wireless store, we know those big wireless carriers are one size fits all. Big, just like their
This is Carlin on 98.7 ESPN.
That it is. It is 9:02 on 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776. We will return to your calls in just moments. First up, though, as we do each and every Thursday night at 9 o'clock, we spin a little yarn, we tell a little tale from my career, and we call it the Carlin Chronicles. Hit it.
His life is really not that interesting. Get ready to be astonished by the average. It's time for the Carlin Chronicles.
Tonight's episode, the Chicken Parm Hero. You may know this about me. At one point in my career, I was a producer of a radio show that was relatively popular. For the moment, it shall remain nameless. Its hosts will protect their names as well. For our purposes, we'll call them Frank and Doug. Frank, at one point, several years ago, when working on his own, was accused of perhaps dozing off at one point on the air. And many felt it must have been the first time it happened. Oh, if only it was. Not quite. Several years earlier, I would put the year at roughly 2002. Let's just throw that out there. I don't remember the exact year, but for our purposes, let's just put it there. I was working with Frank and Doug, and part of my job as the producer was to secure the lunch order for either gentleman each day, should they so desire. Frank often did ask me to do that. Fine. More than willing to do it. The energy level at times for Frank was not a high one. You might even say if you were drafting him, he was not what you would consider a high motor player. And there were times that maybe the selection of meals might have played a role in that. This fact did not escape Doug. And often he would make a point to come and ask exactly what had been ordered for lunch. On one particular day that remains memorable, the show began, and about 15 minutes in, the first break was taken. Doug came into the control room, asked myself and my cohort, who will remain nameless as in order to protect the innocent, what's going on here? What do you mean? Listen, not a lot of energy today. There's not much going on there. I'm trying to make something happen. Nothing going on. Very sleepy. Very sleepy. What's up? I don't know. Maybe he's tired. I don't know. What did you order him for lunch? Well, he had asked for a couple of slices of pizza and a chicken parm hero. Chicken parm hero? He will be asleep and out cold by 2 p.m. We've got a 5.5-hour show here. What am I supposed to do? Chicken parm hero? Why don't you order him a salad? Excuse me. I work for you two. How would it go if I ordered a salad after a chicken parm hero and a couple of slices of pizza were asked for? It would not go over well. I have a problem. I have to now try to make this happen, and there's not a lot going on. This was one particular example of where Doug, frustrated by a lack of energy from his partner on a particular day, felt as if he might be dozing off. That might have happened a few times. Never confirmed, but the lack of energy was clearly a big concern for Doug. Doug felt as if he had to carry the show that day. And those words, Chicken Parm Hero, continue to ring in my head to this day. Tag it, Jacob.
This was the Carlin Chronicles.
Yes, it was. The Chicken Parm Hero. That for lunch, that's not going to provide the energy that you're going to need. The carbs that are involved there, they can knock you out. I, as somebody that has often not eaten particularly healthy, understand that perhaps better than most. It will be asleep by 2 p.m. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. It is Carlin on 98.7 ESPN. Glad to share that with you. We have been talking an awful lot tonight about Francisco Lindor and the Yankees and what it would mean for DJ LeMahieu. Then there has been an assumption by some fans that bringing in Francisco Lindor in a trade would not necessarily preclude you from bringing back DJ LeMahieu. Well, as it turns out, it would, because the Yankees have made pretty clear that they are not going to go above the luxury tax threshold, and they're going to keep their numbers so that they are not paying a luxury tax this year. The problem with that is that they spent $32 million on a pitcher, or $35 million, whatever it was, on a pitcher per year last year. And that has another 8 years left on that contract. And they have $200 million left on the contract of Giancarlo Stanton. So they already have a ton of money committed. Aaron Hicks, with his 7-year, $70 million contract that the Yankees felt they would be able to trade very easily. All of that, very much a problem for Hal Steinbrenner. If you have to choose between bringing back DJ LeMahieu or trading for Francisco Lindor, there's no discussion. You bring back DJ LeMahieu. I understand he's 31 and Lindor is 26, and Lindor is athletic and a good defensive shortstop. LeMahieu has been the best example of a New York Yankee and everything that you want a Yankee to be since Derek Jeter. LeMahieu at 31 is well worth a 4-year contract in the range of $90 million. In my estimation, that number is probably not going to be reached this year. But if the Yankees are not willing to go to a 4th year on LeMahieu and instead they choose to bring in Lindor and they end up having to give him an 8-year deal for $220 million, that's going to be a massive mistake on their part. Massive. And I'm even just throwing numbers out. The numbers could be bigger than that. I understand that he's 26, 27 years old at the end of this year. They're going to pay him $21 million this year in addition to whatever they're giving up with that particular trade. And it's probably not going to be all that much because they're taking the money off the hands of the Indians, but it's still going to be something. If I'm the Yankees, I just focus on LeMahieu and getting him back. I understand that Torres at shortstop is a problem. But you know what else is a problem? Letting go of a guy that you know is uber clutch and is not bothered by anything that comes with being a New York Yankee and is immediately going to continue to be one of your true leaders that you desperately need. Lindor, I'm not saying he's going to come here and flame out, okay? I know what I have when it comes to DJ LeMahieu and playing in New York. It's a better investment to go 4 for $80 for him than bring in Lindor and go 10 for $300 or whatever it's going to be. It's just a better investment. 800-919-3776. Open lines. Good chance for you to get through. Right now, we will hit the calls when we come back. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. 800-919-3776. Just had the greatest tweet sent to me. There is nothing better than this. Just moments ago, I got the tweet sent to me from, I'm not even sure who it was from. I don't even need to give them credit for, because it's from the New York Post. And it is quite simply a highlight of my career, personally. There is a split picture of me and Troy Aikman. And the headline underneath it says, "What a brutal week in sports broadcasting." Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Oh, that's as good as it gets. Oh, Mama, we made it. It's a Mushnick column. He's getting on me for yelling during a touchdown. What a brutal week in sports broadcasting. I may get this framed. I may get this framed. This is as good as this looks. Wow. That's a keeper. 800-919-3776. Let's hit Roy in Jersey. Roy, what's going on, dude?
I'd like to know, since you're talking baseball tonight anyway, why is Alex Rodriguez being held in such high esteem?
By
He's
who?
A liar. Alex Rodriguez.
No, I understand. By who is holding him in high esteem?
They have him on the shows, doing all the work on it.
Well, it's fair to say that A-Rod knows a lot about baseball, no?
Yeah, but he's a liar. He's a thief. He's not somebody that you want your children to look up to.
Well, thief, I don't know about thief. He was a cheat. He's a liar and a cheat. No, you don't want his kids to look up to. You don't want kids to look up to that. I think that maybe you are looking at this from the standpoint that he doesn't deserve to make a comeback. Now, he lied and cheated a couple of times, and A-Rod's a fraud in a lot of ways. I'm not disagreeing with all that. But have we ever seen anybody make a better comeback from a publicity standpoint than Alex Rodriguez? Probably not. Probably not. So, yeah, I get it. You don't want to see him on the games. That's fine. I do think he does know a lot about baseball. It's not like he's stupid. But nobody's asking you, Roy, to hold him in a high regard and make him be, a role model for your children. Yes? No? Anything? Okay. Fair enough. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Just put the headline up. Maybe I'm just going to leave it up on the live stream during the show the rest of the night. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. You know, we have spent time discussing how DJ LeMahieu and the possibility of him being not brought back by the Yankees could work to the Mets' favor. And the biggest way that that can happen is if the Yankees do decide to go the Lindor route. And if they do, all of a sudden, you've got a situation where the Mets could capitalize and pay him a good amount of money, a 4-year, $90 million deal, because they were willing to go to that 4th year and bring him over from the Yankees. And boy, I mean, that would be a massive, massive kick in the pants to the Yankees. No, absolutely it would. And from a Met standpoint, man, that's a no-brainer. I'm such a big LeMahieu fan. I have been for such a long time. And you look at the last 2 years here with the Yankees and find me somebody who's played better. Frankly, find me players in baseball. Find me 5 players in baseball the last 2 years who have played better than DJ LeMahieu. I don't know if you can. 5's a reasonable number, isn't it? When this is somebody that's been in the mix for the MVP each of the last 2 years, 5 is a reasonable number. I don't know if you can find it. Alex in New Jersey is next. Alex, what's going on?
What do you think about the Yankees getting rid of Gleyber Torres and a few other minor league prospects for Lindor?
I don't think they're going to have to give up that much. They're not going to have to give up that much. Come on. You're not going to have to give up Gleyber Torres to go get Lindor. The Indians don't want to pay Lindor $21 million. They have no interest in doing that. So the Yankees are going to have to give away a prospect or two, but it's not going to be on the super high-end variety. And it's not going to be like an everyday great player right now to go get him. It's simply going to be taking that money away from the Indians so they don't have to pay him this season. All right, good talk. Not a lot of follow-ups tonight, I guess. I guess my points have been so salient and tight and really on board in every way that it has caused people to just be rendered speechless. It really has. I tell you, I'm proud of myself tonight. We're doing some magical things right here. 800-919-3776. Open lines, good chance to get through. A couple of other things I wanted to touch on. And, you know, when it comes to LeMahieu and Lindor, how Lindor doesn't weaken the Yankees, but you'd rather have LeMahieu. LeMahieu would remarkably strengthen the Mets. And I think those are things that if you're Steve Cohen and you look at a guy that's been clutch and has fit in New York in every way, and you need to be a leader of your team that may be a couple of players away from being ready to win, that'd be a great guy to have. I got to flip over to the Jets for a few minutes here. Because Sam Darnold, it sounds like, is going to play on Monday night. I just want to remind you that Sam Darnold, earlier this year, suffered a shoulder injury, missed a game, then came back, suffered a recurrence of a shoulder injury this past week. And Adam Gase earlier today had this to say about Sam Darnold's availability for Monday night.
What are his chances of playing on Monday?
Right now, I feel pretty good about it. It's just going to be about if we have if something doesn't feel right, you know, when we do get him out there. I think his mindset is, you know, it'll take something not feeling right for him not to play. You know, we just felt like this was a chance to give him one more day of rest. Being able to do the third down red area stuff is, you know, something that we always want to make sure that he feels really comfortable with, which that'll be the next couple of days. So we'll kind of see what happens after today, how he's feeling.
I'm sorry. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. How can you let Sam Darnold back on the football field after he had the same injury recur this past week? It's irresponsible. And that decision should not be in Sam Darnold's hands. If the Jets let him make the decision, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to go out and play. Why would you play him on Monday night against the Patriots when you have a bye week the following week? I mean, you could say, well, you could play him and then let him, you know, go rest up for those 2 weeks. No. If you sit him on Monday night, he gets, what, 2.5, 3 weeks of rest between starts? To me, you can't do that to this kid. You have put him in enough bad positions to begin with. And you want to run him back out there with an offensive line that has played terribly, and you want to run him back out there with very few weapons, and he's not 100% healthy. How do you do that in good conscience if you're Adam Gase? You know, the ship has sailed, Adam. You're going to be gone. Last time I checked, the Jets have not won one freaking game. And you're going to let the kid go out there on Monday night and put himself in a spot where he shouldn't be making the call. This is where Joe Douglas needs to step in. Sam's not playing Monday night. We're not going to do that to him. I want him to be healthy later in the year. I want him to get healthy now. I want to give him every opportunity to play as well as he can down the stretch of this season. If not for just anything else, then his trade value in the off season, if we do end up with the number 1 overall pick and Trevor Lawrence wants to be here. How's it going to look for Sam if he's out there playing with a bad shoulder and he's not able to play at a high level at all? I mean, it's been tough enough to begin with, but now you're going to let him go out there injured. Come on. Come on. You want to give this kid, if you are going to move on, Sam has handled himself the right way in every way possible. You want to put him in the best position to be successful somewhere else. You want to make sure that somebody else wants him for your trade value, and you're going to want him to have a chance, for somebody to believe in his abilities and to want to bring him in. But no, you're worried about, and I get it, but the ship has sailed on the year. We know that it has. There should be one priority: positioning yourself to get the number 1 overall pick. And by running Sam out there when he's not healthy, that's not doing anybody any favors, okay? I'll put Joe Flacco out there. I'll put anybody else out there. If Sam is not 100%, you can't ask him to do it. And you can't allow him to make the decision to do it. I'm going to be very disappointed and really shocked if they let him play Monday night. It'll be so wrong on so many levels and so disappointing. But the Jets have done nothing but that. Joe, step in, do the right thing. Sam's not playing. And I know what they're talking about. You know, they're saying because they also want the other team to not know what they're going to do at quarterback on Monday night. That's all fine. Okay? You're talking about this now. He better be wearing the earpiece and a cap on the sideline against the Patriots. It's the right thing to do. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. Do you want Francisco Lindor with the Yankees? Is that where you want to invest your money this offseason, or would you rather have LeMahieu back? 800-919-3776. Open lines the rest of the way. It's Carlin on 98.7 ESPN.
Is Belichick ready?
Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776, 800-919 ESPN. The great Huey in St. Louis is up next. Huey, what's going on, bud?
Colin, how are you, man?
Good, how are you?
Everything? So before I get to the Giants stuff, I saw an article about you in the Post tonight.
As did I. I just saw the headline, and it's me, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, or a couple minutes ago.
Aikman.
It's me and Troy Aikman, split screen, with the headline, breaking down a brutal week in sports broadcasting.
All I know is you and Troy Aikman mentioned the same breath.
Listen, I see the picture. Right? I don't see anything else. Oh, well.
No
publicity is bad publicity.
I'll run by Joe Buck's house and see if Aikman's hanging out with him tonight for you. But so, hey, man, a couple of things. So on the Met front, I'm really looking forward to next week, getting Sandy back in there. And this Lindor thing to me is very intriguing because you're talking about what it would take to get him. And I agree with you. I think the Indians are going to take whatever they can get, whether it's a couple of prospects. They're not going to get Pete Alonso or a Shell or something like that.
Or Dom Smith or anybody like that.
Right. So, listen, I'm okay. At this point, I would say I'm okay giving up Rosario. I think I'd be.
Absolutely. Listen, I have to tell you, and listen, if the Mets go get Lindor, I understand it. But I really think Jimenez could be a poor man's Lindor. I like him a lot.
I do too. And you know what? And he did a lot of things last year consistently that Rosario's never done. And this whole thing about Rosario playing center field, it's not going to happen.
No. Rosario is a bench player, and he's a good bench player. And that's why I actually don't think the Mets should rush to try to trade him away. If you're talking about going and getting Lindor and they want him, go nuts. I think they would probably more likely want Jimenez. But if I were the Mets, I wouldn't go that route. I would go the route of signing LeMahieu, letting the Yankees go get him, and then I bring Jimenez and allow him to play short full time. And, I've got a lot to work with there all of a sudden.
Well, and Jimenez is just, he does all the things right, fundamentally, great glove. He was smart in the base paths. Rosario drove me nuts. He does not know how to run the bases, ever.
No, he's not an instinctual player.
No.
He's not an instinctual player at all, Huey. It's
a lot of talent, although I do believe that some team looking for a shortstop on the cheap might overpay to get him because it's not going to cost a whole lot for the next couple of years for him.
Define overpay. What does overpay mean?
Well, they might give you maybe some bullpen help or something, which the Mets need. I think you might get a little more for Rosario than you think. I think there's a team out there that's looking because shortstop is such a coveted position right now.
Yeah.
Although he does, and at the end of last year, he really, in 19, he had a very good second half.
No, he did. He absolutely did, Huey. And I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think – I think Jimenez is going to be better. And I think that Rosario, what he's going to bring back, I don't know. Maybe he brings back a serviceable reliever, a guy that can help you. That I could buy that. That's possible, especially when you factor in that there is a glut of bullpen help on the free agent market.
Free agent market. Yeah. So here's what's intriguing to me. So Sandy's coming in, and he knows most of the talent on that roster, and he actually developed most of that talent. But I'm really interested to see what he's going to do with Cano. Because that's if you're going to trade him, you're going to have to eat a big part of his salary. I don't think they're just going to cut him and just let him go.
You know what I think, Huey, and thanks for the call. I think a lot of what they're going to do with Cano is going to be based on whether or not it's a universal DH. Because I could absolutely see Cano being the DH for the Mets. Playing second base, there's not much left there. There's not. Maybe one more year of doing it. But if there's a universal DH, Cano could be that. And then you're talking more and more about what that infield could look like. If you wanted to sign LeMahieu and have him play second, I could have him play third. I could have McNeil play second. I can do a lot of different things. The Mets do have, strangely enough, some nice versatility here with some moves they can make. Sam's in Connecticut. He's next on 98.7 ESPN. Sammy!
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm great, bud. How are you?
Not too bad. So, last few years, or the last decade or so, the Yankees have made the playoffs. What's been one of their most nagging issues?
Well, I think it's been starting pitching. That's been one. And
what about clutch hitting?
Clutch hitting, I would absolutely say would be the other. Yeah.
So this is one of the key.
In fact, you're right. I would put clutch hitting first because they've been, we talk about them being too reliant on the home run. Clutch hitting has been more important than anything else during that entire run.
Right. So why would you want to get rid of one of your best hitters in LeMahieu?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's not even get rid of, it's choose one over the other. And I get it.
Right.
Lindor's a great player. He's young. He's somebody that you can have at shortstop for a long time. But if we're talking about 10 years with Lindor or 4 with LeMahieu, there's no question where the better investment is, considering what you know about LeMahieu already.
Right, and you don't know where your window is with after 4 years or so, when you got to re-sign all the other players that they have now.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the prime the time right now that you're going to have to come up with something with your best hitting lineup, and LeMahieu has to be a big part of that.
Agreed, and thanks for the call, Sam. LeMahieu is somebody that you just know you can rely on without a problem. And you can throw him in there, and he can play 3 different positions for you. And there are not 4 to 5 other players in baseball I'd rather have at the plate in a big situation. That's just fact. I certainly would rather have him at the plate than Lindor. And it's not a knock on Lindor. It's talking more about how good LeMahieu is. Carlin, 800-919-3776. Let's go back and look at what the clutch numbers are for him in the last 2 years. It's absolutely insane what his clutch numbers are the last 2 years. Off the charts. Wow. I just think that's a full-on mistake if you want to believe in Lindor over LeMahieu as the better investment. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 9:41. We've got time for as many of your calls as we can squeeze in on the open lines before the top of the hour. Excellent chance for you to get through on the Mets, on the Yankees, on the football this weekend, whatever you want. Let's go. 800-919-3776. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN.
You can't miss a moment.
You got to read after this.
800-919-3776. Carlin 947 open lines. Good chance to finish up the show strong with me on the lines right now at 800-919-3776. Couple of things I wanted to get to. Number one, tomorrow I will be on from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. We in the business call it 11 a till 1 p. But I will be on tomorrow filling in for Bart and Han, who I believe are filling in on the Lebitard show nationally. But 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow, so by all means, be with us then. Number two, Michael talked about this earlier, and I just wanted to mention it. You probably saw the news today that ESPN is in the process of laying off 300 employees, and they're not going to fill another 200 open jobs. And it is a obviously tough all over situation. And, you know, we talk about it because it ends up being people that we know, and you feel just absolutely awful for them. You know, when you have friends that go through that, you never really fully appreciate it until you go through it yourself. And so you see people deal with it in different ways. And I'll be honest, like last year when everything that happened and I got cut loose, I did not internally handle it the best way that I could. I admittedly had been incredibly fortunate in my career that it had never happened to me before. I'd never been let go before. And it hurts. And those of you who have gone through it know it too. And I feel for all those people going through it right now at ESPN, at companies all over the country that have been dealing with it because of the pandemic, because it truly doesn't have anything to do with what the job performance is. It's a financial decision and a financial reality these days, the way things have gone. I would just say this. If you know people, if you have friends, if you've gone through it yourself, the one thing I would say, just having gone through it recently, is if the majority of your life has been about your career, understand that it does not define you as a person. And that is something that I have really struggled with, frankly, at times still do. And it's not healthy for you at all. So if you've been affected by the pandemic, if you've lost a job and you've gone through the financial effects of it, I'm thinking about you. I was exceptionally fortunate that everyone at 98.7 welcomed me in. And, you know, I got that opportunity to be here, and you never take it for granted. But reach out to your friends. Don't just say, hey, you know, oh, you'll land on your feet. You know, like that was the phrase that I could not stand. The people that would reach out and say, oh, you're good. You'll land on your feet. How the hell do you know? You don't know. Just be supportive of them. Try to help them if you know of other jobs that are open. I'm not just talking about ESPN right now. I'm talking obviously about everybody. Everybody that has gone through this, the 40-some million people over the last 10 months that have gone through this. If you know of a way to help them in terms of trying to find another job, do it. Just extend that hand. Be as supportive as possible, just from the standpoint of, hey, look, it sucks. There's no getting around it. But when you lose your job, it doesn't mean anything about who you are. It has more to do with just fiscal realities in the world. And it also just means that it's another opportunity for you to have a blank canvas. And a friend of mine years and years ago went through just this. And I had never been through it at the time. And another mutual friend of ours sent him just that. a blank canvas. You can now try to give yourself the freedom to do something else, to paint your own canvas the way that you want to. You know, maybe you just need to go and get a job. That might be one thing. Maybe it can be the impetus to try to go do something else. So whatever it is, if you've gone through this, if you're going through this, just know that I'm with you in spirit, because it just blows. But also, know that it has nothing to do with who you are. It's an incredibly difficult time that we're going through. And if you just keep your mind on the moment, how to position yourself best, how to keep your spirits up, do all the right things. Like I remember going on with Michael last year, and I was joking. You're like, yeah, I think I went on about a month or two after I got cut loose. And I said, it's the first time I put on pants in a while. And it was. Like, that's not good. Get dressed, have your day, do your thing. I don't mean to give like a big pep talk here, but boy, so many people in this country have been through it this year. And I feel better as a person and more understanding of myself for having gone through it, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody, because it absolutely sucks. It sucks in every way. Anyway, my best wishes, and I'm thinking of all those people today, particularly at ESPN, because it was in the news, but everybody around the country that is dealing with this right now, because we will find our way out of it on the other side, and you will continue to believe that you will be in the position that you are meant to be in. 800-919-3776. A few minutes left to get a couple of calls in. I just wanted to spend some time on that, because it really is just not, it's not easy in any way. When we're talking about, though, the Yankees, the Mets, the Lindor, the LeMahieu discussion, I think the things that really tend to get lost in this is it's so easy to just look at numbers, look at ages, look at those kinds of things when evaluating what you should do. And it seems like so obvious when you talk about the folks from analytics who want to discuss that Lindor is this much younger, he's capable of doing X, Y, and Z over the next few years, and probabilities state that he will do this, this, and this. Okay. And probabilities state that DJ LeMahieu in 2 or 3 years will not be the same player that he was for the last 2. Probabilities state that. Okay. You know, if there's one thing that we have seen in decision-making this year, it's that probabilities and numbers don't account for intangibles. And Lindor's a guy that's performed before on the big stage in the postseason. But I know that LeMahieu has done it here for the most recognizable organization in all of baseball and professional sports, for that matter, and has done it at an incredibly high level in clutch situations. Why would I ever choose to go another route that's going to cost me a lot more money and a lot more time than going with what I know to be fact? I don't understand in what a shorter investment LeMahieu would be to where, let's call the bottom end of what you're getting at age 35 is, instead of hitting 340, he's hitting 310 or 300. And his OPS is like 800 as opposed to 900. You know what? You might have Lindor end up being a superstar for a long time. But when it comes to the Yankees trying to get back and win a championship, I want to go with what I know and what I've seen from this individual already in my ecosphere. I know what he's about. I know the leadership that he provides. I know the versatility that he provides. I know all of that. And if the Yankees, they decide to go in that direction and go bring in Lindor as opposed to bringing back LeMahieu, they're making a major, major mistake. All right, that'll do it for me. Lawrence W. Hardesty is up next. He has got ESPN New York tonight. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll be filling in for Bart and Han. Make sure you're locked in there. Jacob Perry, backbone of the show, getting it done as per usual. That's really all I got. So enjoy your night. We will see you tomorrow morning, and enjoy Larry. Keep it right where it is, right here, 98.7 ESPN.
Spectrum Mobile is the thank you, Chris, provider in the nation. It's easy to see why millions have